The bill has taken audiences inside gripping criminal cases, but the most heartbreaking tragedies have occurred behind the scenes. One actor collapsed after hearing he was fired. Another lost her young grandchild in the tsunami, and many others have died in pain and oblivion. They were heroes on screen, but who will tell their real stories? Kevin Lloyd as DC Tosh Lines. Kevin Lloyd played DC Tosh Lines in The Bill in 1984 when he was 35 years old. DC Tosh Lines wasn't handsome or flashy, but he was a down-to-earth, sharp-witted, sympathetic detective. To the audience, he was a comic relief amid the tense investigations. But behind this beloved character was a man who was slowly losing control, both in his life and his drinking. Kevin Reardon Lloyd was born on March 28, 1949, in Derby, England, into a family of police officers. But instead of following in the footsteps of his father, who died in the line of duty in 1970, Kevin chose the stage. His childhood was far from idyllic. He suffered from Perthes disease, a disorder that causes the hip to atrophy, leaving him in constant, silent pain. After pursuing a career in law, he changed direction and enrolled in the East 15 acting school, unwittingly beginning a journey that would end all too soon. Despite his success as Tosh, Kevin struggled with a persistent alcohol problem that lasted for decades. His marriage to Leslie, whom he married in 1973, ended in 1995 after 22 years, leaving behind 7 children. His wife accused him of being violent and out of control when drunk. The death of his youngest daughter, Chloe, from meningitis at the age of 17 months, only deepened the emotional trauma he carried. In 1998, after repeatedly arriving drunk on set, Kevin was fired from the film on 27th of April. He checked into a rehab center in Burton-upon-Trent, but just a few days later, he snuck out for a drink, returned semi-conscious, vomited blood, suffocated, and died in his sleep on May 2nd, 1998. He was 49. His net worth is estimated at $1 million. His death was a huge shock to the cast, especially Mark Wingett's close friend Jim Carver, who later turned his grief into a role as a recovering alcoholic cop in the following season. Kevin's name is still remembered as a man who loved too much and destroyed himself because of that love. Colin Tarrant as Inspector Andrew Monroe. At the age of 38, Colin Tarrant played Inspector Andrew Monroe in The Bill in 1990. He was the embodiment of calm, integrity, and justice, a respected leader amidst the chaos at Sun Hill Station. Viewers admired him for his unwavering morals, but behind his calm facade was a man silently battling the darkness within his own mind. Colin Tarrant was born on the 14th June 1952 in Shirebrook, Derbyshire, into a traditional working-class family. He initially studied education and English literature at Exeter University, intending to become a teacher. But the stage beckoned, from his early days in a community theater to performances with prestigious companies such as the RSC and Leicester Phoenix. His life seemed stable, no scandals, no arguments. But in that silence, Colin began to develop depression, hidden from everyone. A friend once said, "Colin was very good at hiding it. He wears sadness like a uniform every day." After leaving The Bill in 2002, he continued acting on stage and television. From Holby City and Midsummer Murders to Casualty, his stage performance as Brian Clough in 2005 was met with rave reviews, but the sadness never seemed to leave him. Colin worked as an actor while also returning to teaching to maintain a steady income, occasionally teaching in secondary schools when roles were scarce. Many of his colleagues later learned that he had attempted suicide several times and had been hospitalized for depression. However, he always hid this every time he went on stage. On January 26, 2012, Colin Tarrant was found dead at his home in Bristol with self-inflicted stab wounds. He died at Bristol Royal Infirmary at the age of 59. A month later, a court ruled he had committed suicide after suffering from untreated depression. His net worth was estimated at $800,000, not much, but the result of a lifetime of hard work. His last appearance on stage was in Calendar Girls. No one knew it would be his last. George Rossi as DC Duncan Lennox. At 38, George Rossi took on the role of DC Duncan Lennox when he joined the industry in 1998. With his piercing eyes and wry sense of humor, he was the embodiment of the detective type. Believable, down to earth, steady, and insightful. But contrary to his tough on-screen image, George Rossi's life was a quiet journey that ended in an unforeseen tragedy. George was born on 28 September 1961 in Govan, Glasgow, to Italian immigrants. His parents were from Valvori, a small village in Lazio, and worked as ice cream vendors in the neighborhood. He spent his childhood selling ice cream on the streets of Scotland. But from an early age, George dreamed of roles that were larger than life. He then attended the East 15 School of Acting, where he honed his acting skills while still carrying the memories of an Italian boy growing up in England. Different, but determined to make his mark. Before joining the show, George had appeared in a number of productions, including Comfort and Joy, The Singing Detective, and The Big Man with Liam Neeson. But it was his role as DC Lennox that brought him to millions of viewers. In real life, George is a devoted husband to his wife Katrin since 1988 and father of 2 children, Matilda and Santino. After retiring from the entertainment industry in 2003, Rossi continued to act in both film and theater, although he rarely appeared in the media. Then, suddenly, on January 5, 2022, the heartbreaking news was confirmed. He died at the age of 60 from pancreatic cancer, a disease he had been quietly battling for a long time. He left behind an estimated net worth of about $600,000, not a fortune, but a testament to a decent, serious, and respected career. His death was confirmed by his granddaughter, Louisa Rossi, a simple farewell that shook the Bill fan community. Ben Roberts as Chief Inspector Derek Conway. Ben Roberts plays Chief Inspector Derek Conway at the age of 37 when he joins the Bill in 1987. As the commanding officer of Sun Hill, Derek Conway, with his steady yet compassionate demeanor, represented power, order, and loss, both on screen and off. When his character was killed in a car bomb, millions of viewers were shocked. What they didn't expect was that years later, Ben Roberts himself would quietly pass away, leaving an irreplaceable void in the hearts of his fans. Ben was born on 1st July 1950 in Bangor, Gwynedd, Wales, into a working-class family. After attending Friars School, he pursued his theatrical dreams at the Webber Douglas Academy of Dramatic Art in London, graduating in 1978. The road to acting was not an easy one. He worked all sorts of jobs to support his dream of being on stage, but his determination and ambition led him to powerful roles, especially Conway, a character that reflected his true nature, disciplined, honest, and steadfast. After leaving the Bill in 2002, Ben continued his artistic journey in both film and television, appearing in works such as Jane Eyre, 2011, A Little Chaos, 2014, and Tim Burton's Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, 2016. However, few people know that in his later years, he quietly battled chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, a disease that gradually drained his strength and forced him to turn down many projects. Despite this, he still regularly attended fan events, even with the help of a cane. Ben Roberts passed away on June 7, 2021, at the age of 70. He is survived by his wife, Helen Lloyd, a veteran television producer, a son, and a granddaughter. His net worth is estimated at $700,000, But more valuable than any amount of money is his professional legacy, a man who lived his life for his art. Tony Scannell as DS Ted Roach. Tony Scannell plays Detective Sergeant Ted Roach in 1984, when he was 39 years old. From his first moments on screen, Ted Roach captivated audiences with his tough, forceful demeanor and rule-breaking investigative style. But Tony Scannell, the man behind Roach, had his own quiet conflicts that spilled over into real life. Born on August 14, 1945 in Kinsale, County Cork, Ireland, Tony grew up in the shadow of his father, Tom Scannell, a goalkeeper who played for Ireland in 1954. While his father pursued football, Tony chose the arts. He soon found success on stage and television, appearing in productions such as Flash Gordon, 1980, and then The Bill, his first guest role in 2 episodes that became a mainstay of the series for nearly a decade. But off-screen, his life was far from stable. In 2002, he was declared bankrupt with debts of more than 42,000 pays, plunging him into financial crisis and out of the limelight. Although once widely loved, Scannell gradually disappeared from mainstream television. He moved to Beccles near Lowestoft, where he lived quietly with his partner Agnes Lillis. Together they founded a community theater company called Eastbound. From the bright lights of the studio, he moved on to teaching evening acting classes for adults at the Seagull Theater. He turned to Buddhism, pursuing a simple and meditative lifestyle after years of marital and financial hardship. He had 4 children from 3 different relationships. Tony Scannell died on May 26, 2020, at the age of 74. The cause of death was reported as natural, although reports said he had been battling illness for some time. His net worth is estimated at $500,000. But what people remember most is Roach's piercing gaze during interrogations, his deep Irish voice, and a glorious past that was cut short too soon. Mark Wingett plays police officer Jim Carver, who joined the cast in 1984 at the age of 23. One of the first faces in the series, Jim Carver started out as a naive, idealistic young officer. But over time, the character developed into a deeply complex man, struggling with alcoholism, debt, and domestic abuse. This emotional storyline not only moved the audience, but also pushed Mark Wingett to the brink as he struggled between himself and his character, between acting and reality. Born on the 1st January 1961 in Melton Mowbray, Leicestershire, Mark is the son of a Royal Navy officer and grew up moving from Malta to Singapore, eventually settling in Portsmouth. He dreamed of being an actor from a young age, joining the National Youth Theatre and making his dramatic debut in Quadrophenia, 1979, as a rebellious biker. But it was his role as Jim Carver in Wooden Top, the first episode of the show, that defined his entire career. For 21 years, he lived the character to the fullest, through ups and downs and rebirths. Wingett has also been involved in scandals offstage. His personal life made headlines in 2000 when a Playboy actress revealed an affair with him. His marriage to makeup artist Sharon Martin ended temporarily, although they reunited in 2003, and they continued to raise their daughter Jamila and Martin's children from a previous relationship. While Wingett never publicly struggled with depression or addiction like Jim Carver, he has confessed that playing Carver for so long was exhausting. "I took his pain home with me every night." As of 2025, Mark Wingett is 64 years old, with an estimated net worth of $1.3 million, and is still active in the industry, appearing in EastEnders, Heartbeat, Missing, and taking on unsung cameos in independent films. He didn't chase fame. Instead, he chose silence, even publishing a personal essay about the artist Gigi Allen, exploring a different kind of artistic darkness as a way to release his own pent-up energy. To the public, Mark Wingett was Carver, and Carver was Mark Wingett, a character born from real life then returning to shape the very life that created him in a never-ending loop. Trudy Goodwin plays Sergeant June Ackland. Trudy Goodwin plays Sergeant June Ackland, starting at the age of 32 when she joined the Bill in 1984. One of the first faces to appear in the pilot episode Wooden Top, and with over 23 years on television, June Ackland is more than just a cop. She was a compassionate heart in a cynical world, balancing duty and emotion. But this memorable role did not come from a simple script. It was the culmination of the real-life experiences of Trudy Goodwin, a woman who spent nearly half her life playing a role without ever losing herself. Born on November 23, 1951 in England, Trudy did not come from a family of artists, but she had a strong desire to appear in front of the camera. When she took on the role of June Ackland, she did more than just act. She brought to the character the vulnerability and inner conflict of a woman trying to find her place in a male-dominated industry. In her personal life, Trudy married actor Kit Jackson in 1979 and had 2 daughters, one of whom is Ellie Jackson, lead singer of the electronic band LaRue. But being a mother, filming almost every day for 2 decades, was never easy. She frankly admitted, "I missed the most important years of my children's childhood." After leaving the Bill in 2007, Trudy remained active in television, appearing in Emmerdale, Doctors, and even game shows like Countdown, Loose Women, and All-Star Mr. and Mrs. Although she was not involved in the scandal, she publicly criticized ITV for screwing up the Bill, which eventually led to the show's cancellation in 2010. She is also involved in charity work, serving on the board of Denville Hall, a nursing home for elderly entertainers, as a way to give back to the community that nurtured her. As of 2025, Trudy Goodwin is 73 years old, with an estimated net worth of $2 million, a figure that fits the record for the longest-running female police officer in British television history. She continues to act, not for the money, but for the undying love of the craft. In the eyes of the audience, June Ackland is never really finished, and neither is Trudy. She is living proof that a woman can be an artist, a mother, and a pillar of strength without having to give up any part of herself. It may have been her most challenging role, but it was also the most beautiful role she ever played. Graham Cole as PC Tony Stamp. Graham Cole was 32 when he played police officer Tony Stamp in 1984's The Bill. A dedicated police driver, idealistic colleague, and quiet mentor to countless young cops at Sunhill, Tony Stamp was not flashy, but he was the steadfast heart of the series. Yet behind that incredible tenacity was a man who sacrificed much for the steadfastness that audiences loved. Born on 16th March 1952 in Wilston, Middlesex, Graham was the youngest of 3 children. Before entering television, he spent 12 years working in theater and musicals, while also being a father and getting married, while dreaming of becoming a recognized actor. In the early 1980s, he appeared in a number of uncredited roles in Doctor Who and films such as The Living Daylights, Indiana Jones, and The Last Crusade, but never achieved real fame. Cole has said that staying in one role for so long is an identity and psychological challenge. When he left the Bill in 2009, it took him nearly 3 years to escape the shadow of Tony Stamp, but he didn't collapse. Cole has devoted himself to charity, serving as chairman of the National Holiday Fund, supporting Childline, becoming a regular at the Grand Order of Water Rats, and was awarded an OBE in 2010 for his work. As of 2025, Graham Cole is 73 years old, lives with his wife and 2 children, and still regularly appears on television shows, charity events, and local stage productions. His net worth is estimated at $1.5 million, but that figure does not begin to measure the emotional value he has brought to British television and his millions of loyal fans. Eric Richard as Sergeant Bob Cryer. Eric Richard plays Sergeant Bob Cryer, who joined the Bill in 1984 at the age of 44. For 2 decades, he was a father figure at Sun Hill Station, calm, respected, and a pillar of support amid the storms of his career. With his warm voice and stern but sympathetic eyes, Bob Cryer was not just a character, but also a symbol of responsibility and work ethic. But behind that solid image, Eric Richards' life was marked by one of the most heartbreaking family tragedies any father or grandfather should ever face. Born on June 27, 1940, in Margate, Kent, England, his real name was Eric Smith. He was a familiar face in British theatre long before he appeared on television, performing at venues such as the Royal Court, Stratford East, and the Royal Exchange. He did not come from a performing family, but through sheer passion and talent he made a name for himself through classic stage roles and television appearances, including Doctor Who, Open All Hours, Holby City, and Shoestring. His role as Bob Cryer seemed destined, and he stayed with it for 20 years, from the very first episode until the show's creative direction changed. But his life changed forever on 26th of December, 2004. During the Indian Ocean tsunami, his 2-month-old nephew, Charlie Smith, was swept from the arms of his father, Eric, and died in a restaurant in Unawatuna, Sri Lanka. Charlie became the youngest British victim of the disaster. The sudden and painful loss left an indelible scar on the soul of Eric, a devoted grandfather. For many years, he remained silent in public, but in a rare interview, he later choked up. "I can never forget, and I don't want to forget." In 2025, at age 85, Eric Richards is still married to his wife, Tina, and occasionally takes on small roles from the Oscar-winning film Short Stutterer, 2016, to guest roles in Dunkirk, 2017, EastEnders, and most recently, Call the Midwife, 2025. His net worth is estimated at $1.2 million, but what fans appreciate most is not his career, but how he overcame his grief. To Bill viewers, Bob Cryer is a mentor who never leaves. And in real life, Eric Richard is a man who carries lifelong emotional scars, but is still as brave as the character he played. Chris Ellison as Inspector Frank Burnside. Chris Ellison played Inspector Frank Burnside in the 1984 film The Bill when he was 38 years old. Burnside is the type of man who is willing to go out of his way to do the right thing, ruthless when necessary, cold-hearted when necessary, and absolutely intolerant of evil. Under Chris Ellison, the character not only survived, but dominated. Even after leaving the Bill, Burnside was given his own spin-off series, Burnside, a rare privilege for any British TV actor. Born on December 16, 1946 in London, Chris Ellison worked as a graphic artist, taxi driver, and Navy man before finding his way into acting. His breakthrough came with small roles in The Sweeney, Dempsey, Makepeace, and finally, The Bill. The character was originally named Tommy Burnside, but when he became the central character, his name was changed to Frank Burnside to avoid conflicting with his real-life police identity. From then on, he was not just an actor, but Burnside, a living legend. Ellison then appeared in EastEnders Casualty, New Tricks, and even Celebrity Big Brother, 2015. But Burnside's shadow never left him. Then, in 2020, something devastating happened. Chris suffered a stroke at his home in Brighton. His wife, Anita Joannou, found him collapsed on the bedroom floor. Emergency services were unable to get him down the spiral staircase and had to remove part of the roof to get him out. The diagnosis was aphasia, a severe language disorder that left him unable to speak, although he could still understand others. He withdrew from public life, fearful of being recognized, but unable to speak as he had before. His wife and 2 children became his carers, and his longtime co-star, Mark Wingett, remained close by as family. In 2025, Chris Ellison is 78 years old, with an estimated net worth of $1.5 million, living quietly in Brighton. The voice that once struck fear into the hearts of millions is now a labored whisper, but he refuses to let his personal pain be silenced. Together with his wife, he has become a passionate advocate for aphasia awareness, inspiring others who have lost their voice but not their will to live. Jeff Stewart as police officer Reg Hollis. Jeff Stewart plays police officer Reg Hollis, first appearing in The Bill in 1984 at the age of 28. One of the longest-serving characters in the series, Reg Hollis is not a muscular cop or a heroic fighter for justice. He is eccentric, anxious, obsessed with paperwork and procedures, and a long-winded talker, but fiercely loyal to his job and his colleagues. It is this quirkiness that allows Jeff Stewart to make Reg one of Bill's most beloved characters. But behind the familiar glasses and shaved head was a fragile soul. And when the character was erased, the man who played him was almost erased too. Jeff Stewart was born on October 28, 1955, in Aberdeen, Scotland, and grew up in Southampton in a working-class family. Before The Bill, he had small roles in Doctor Who, High to High, and other lesser-known TV series. But it was his role as Reg Hollis that made him a national household name. By 2007, he was the last remaining cast member from the first series. Then, in a cold-blooded decision, ITV terminated his contract in early 2008, a blow so severe that just hours after receiving the news, Jeff attempted suicide by slitting his wrists at home. Luckily, he managed to call an ambulance and survived. In a statement afterwards, Stewart said, "I love acting. It's my life. And losing Reg was like my whole world came crashing down." That moment marked a turning point. From a stable TV actor, he fell into a deep depression, struggling between fading glory and an uncertain future. But he didn't give up. In 2011, he returned to the screen in Under Jacob's Ladder, playing a Russian-German prisoner, and surprisingly won the Best Actor award at the Manhattan Film Festival. A small but resounding victory for a man who had been on the brink of despair. As of 2025, Jeff Stewart is 69 years old, with an estimated net worth of $1.8 million. He still lives a quiet life, but has never retired from the entertainment industry. Now he appears with a new image: long hair, a salt and pepper beard, and a pensive look. But recently, he surprised the public by helping Hampshire police apprehend a burglar, leaving fans shocked to discover that Hollis was still at large. Jeff Stewart's story is more than just an actor's. It's a story of survival in the dark,